DDD deck profile again. So because of the fact that we're actually in October, I wanted to do things that are more Halloween themed. So as a result, we're doing stuff like zombie decks, and I figured DDDs are fiends. I mean, they're literally called different dimension demons, so they actually fit the whole theme here. So with October, do expect a lot more different zombie related decks. Don't expect something like I don't know, don't expect something that is completely out of that. Expect stuff that are zombie related. And yeah, we're going to start off with DDDs because I haven't done this deck profile for a long time. I have been playing it throughout the entire time. I just haven't found a definitive build during that time up until now. So I've actually found 3 particular builds that you could actually go with. Technically 4, but we're only going to be profiling 3 of them, simply because the fourth one that I actually found of this particular deck is the most common one that everyone knows, and that is the one where you actually play pendulums. So we're talking about Abyss Curtain, we're talking about the Supreme Kings adding into this deck as well to allow you to go for Electromites. I decided to actually opt out of that build. I wanted to go for something that was more close to a pure build of DDDs. As a result, I decided not to play those cards. If you guys actually are wondering why, I just wanted to go for something different. I felt that too many DDD players were going for that particular build. It no longer felt unique in a sense, and I wanted to just go into a different route, and I found 3 different versions of it that I'll be showcasing here myself on this channel, and maybe there might be combos, but I will be actually doing test hands for the first time with DDDs, so be excited for that one. But yeah, without further ado, let's just get started. This will be the very first version of it. So to begin, we're playing 3 copies of Ragnarok, obviously one of the most important cards. I don't really think I need to explain this one. Easily a 3 copies of. Playing 2 copies of Thomas. I really wish I could play a third, I just don't have a third one. But if I did have a third one, I would easily add it in. But that being said, as a replacement for that right now, I am playing the Doom King Armageddon. Firstly, it is technically the boss monster, the ace monster of this deck, though I consider Ragnarok the better ace here. But that being said, Armageddon will be a replacement, so that means I'll take him out and I'll probably put in a 3rd copy of Thomas. So that was my original plan, but I only had 2 copies of Thomas, so I need to get a 3rd one. We'll be playing 3 copies of Savant Kepler, of course. The main search of the deck, very self-explanatory. There's not much to really explain there. However, one thing I did do is I did bump up Copernicus to 3 copies. I really wanted to actually draw into him, and because of that, I actually ended up just bumping up him to 3 copies instead. I felt that it was actually quite appropriate to do this, and that being said, he's also a scale 1, and I felt that scale 1s with the scale 10 for Kepler is actually perfect. And yes, if you're wondering, I'm not playing the whole Abyss Curtain, I'm not playing the Supreme King engine, so it might be odd that I'm still relying on pendulum summoning, but it actually does work with this deck. I mean, as long as you have Thomas, you can keep just adding back your Kepler and Copernicus from your extra deck, so you'll have plenty of scales to actually just pendulum summon out your monsters. It actually works quite well. Of course, we're playing 3 copies of Swirl Slime, the main card to go for your fusion summons. Can't really say much else. It's a self-explanatory card. We're also playing 2 copies of Necro Slime and the 1 Vice Typhon. If you don't want to play Vice Typhon, go ahead and play Necro Slime. A lot of people, I don't know why, but a lot of people just don't like Vice Typhon. I think Vice Typhon's a really amazing card. It's a level 7, and when you turn it together with the Lamia, you go right away for your Siegfried, and I typically make those plays quite commonly. So it's definitely quite nice, you know. But if you guys don't like it, then feel free to take it out and put in a 3rd copy of Necro Slime if you wish. But since I actually am playing it, I'll be playing 2 of Necro Slime and the 1 Vice Typhon. Of course, we're playing 3 copies of Lamia. She is very important. The level 1 turn of the deck that can recur itself, so very relevant card. Now, one thing I'd actually want to quickly mention to you guys is I want you guys to actually keep count of the types of monsters actually have less than 1500 attack. So we have Swirl Slime, Necro Slime, we have Lamia, Kepler, and Copernicus. So that's ignoring Necroslime, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we have 4 playsets of cards that have less than 1500 attack. So just keep that in mind, we'll get to it later. The last 2 cards I'm playing for the deck is actually going to be Puppet Master. So, unlike everyone else who's been playing the whole pendulum variant of it, I mean, I have tried that build plenty of times. It's just not my kind of thing. It wasn't particularly the one that I enjoyed, and if you guys want to see those deck profiles, then there are plenty of channels that actually just make great videos on that version of it. But for my one, I'll be playing 2 Puppet Masters. I felt that was a really nice card to actually go into. I've actually used this card before in my previous builds, and I found it to be quite reliable. So just 2 of those, and it will definitely do the job. It is a very hard card to find. It is from Crossroads of Chaos, but if you are actually able to get your hands on these, definitely do that because it is really amazing for this deck. Okay, so on to spells. 3 copies of Gate. I think it's very self-explanatory here. You wouldn't play less. Playing the 1 Swamp King, very debatable card. One of the cards that I might potentially take out, but for now it still works alright for me. I'm not going to complain about it. For draw power, we're playing 3 copies of Allure, and we're playing 2 copies of Trade-In. We're playing 6 level 8s here, so I think that playing the Trade-Ins are definitely very appropriate for this particular scenario. I am actually not playing Pot of Desires anymore, not because of the fact that I think the card is bad, it's just that using the card more so for draw power is just not a smart move. I'll be making a separate video talking about Pot of Desires, but that being said, I decided that for draw power, I'll rely on Allure of Darkness and Trade-In instead, and it definitely works out a lot better here. At this particular point in time in the format, I'm getting sick of hand traps, and because of that, I definitely have to maximize the Called by the Grave. Very important card to just deal with a lot of hand traps, and you just really got to get your combos going. So cards like Ash, you don't want to see that. Cards like Ghost Ogre even. I mean, there's so many cards that are just really tedious to deal with, and I think that Called by the Grave is really amazing. I hate every time that my opponent actually Ghost Ogres my Dark Contract of the Gate. I hate every time the fact that my opponent tries to DD Crow the materials from my graveyards. I hate the fact that my opponent is trying to Veiler my combos, everything, like all my effects. And Caught by the Grave is just a savior for this deck. A really amazing card. 3 copies has definitely been helping out so well here. Now for this particular version, you guys actually will be very surprised with the next 2 cards I'm actually playing. I decided to actually take out Foolish Burial, and I also decided to take out 1 for 1. The cards that would normally allow you to send resource to the graveyard, and another card that will also allow you to special summon level 1s from the deck. I decided to take them out and play in 2 copies of Inferno Reckless Summon. Yes, these guys actually substituting itself in for the 1 for 1 and the Foolish Burial. I think that Inferno Reckless Summon is a really amazing card. So if you guys are actually wondering, when exactly 1 monster with 1500 or less attack is special summoned to your field, while your opponent controls a face-up monster, special summon as many monsters as possible with the same name as the summoned monster from your hand, deck, and or graveyard. In attack position, also your opponent special summons as many monsters as possible with the same name as one of their face-up monsters from their hand, deck, or graveyard. Most of the time, you'll expect your opponent to have something like a Link monster on the board, or any monster from the extra deck, meaning Inferno Reckless Summon doesn't really work for them in that particular case. However, if they do have a monster that is from the main deck that they could actually spam out with the Inferno Reckless Summon on the board, then obviously that is kind of a downside. So there is a bit of risk involved, and the fact that this effect requires your opponent to already have a monster already on the board as well, there is a certain restriction to that, meaning that as you guys can probably tell by now, this is a turn 2 deck. This deck is designed to actually just allow your opponent to do their plays, do their whole thing, and for you to actually pretty much try to break their board. And believe it or not, it is very possible to actually accomplish that with this particular version of it. The Called by the Grave, only 3 copies. Who would have thought that these cards would actually save the entire deck? That being said, the Inferno Reckless Summon helps out amazingly, allowing you to special summon all those cards that I mentioned earlier that had less than 1500 attack. Now, I did also have multiple copies of Kepler, and I also had multiple copies of Copernicus that could summon off the Inferno Reckless Summon, and since they're pendulum monsters, you figure, why not actually just play Electromite in my extra deck? Yeah, you're right, I'm not playing Electromite in my extra deck. You guys could actually put that in instead. But I'm actually playing a few different cards, so we'll get to it later, but for now, Inferno Reckless Summon has been really amazing for this deck. The final two cards I'm actually playing is Refusion. Refusion, a really amazing card, essentially your Monster Reborn without having to actually play Monster Reborn, but it special summons out fusion monsters from your graveyard. Monster Reborn is okay, you could actually play that if you want as well. I don't know why it's not in here, it should be in this deck. But yeah, if you play Monster Reborn, that'll definitely be an addition to it as well, but the two Refusions are really amazing simply because it special summons. It's basically just more copies of Monster Reborn, so you could play Monster Reborn, but also try to play that. You'll overall have a lot of them. If you want to bump this up to more copies, feel free to do that, but that being said, I do think that two of that is enough, as well as one extra Monster Reborn. With that being said, it allows you to be a little bit more reckless. Sometimes when you bring out your DD fusion monsters, you're too scared to actually link them away, simply because you haven't used their effects yet. Specifically, I'm referring to Genghis here. But if you actually link them away, and then you could bring them back with Refusion, you could still make use of their effects. So it actually takes you away from that whole fear of losing your, I guess the whole idea of card economics or effect economics in this particular case, where you're trying to maximize the potential of your turn by utilizing every single effect. That's actually something that's kind of holding you back from this actual deck itself, and I figure you gotta be, you shouldn't be too afraid here. Just link away your monsters even though you haven't used their effects, because with Refusion you could actually revive it back, and it definitely eases up things there. But that's pretty much it for the main deck, so let's move on to the extra deck. Just before I go to the extra deck, I do want to mention that Monster Reborn is part of this deck. There was actually 39 cards in this main deck, so the last card is Monster Reborn, as I was talking about it with the Refusion, so be sure to add in Monster Reborn into this as well. But yeah, that should make up the whole 40 card deck. However, moving on to the extra deck, we are playing one Avramax. So yeah, you guys are actually just wondering, wow, what a really surprising card to actually throw into this deck. Yeah, you're right. Avramax is just a really amazing card. Love the card. It's pretty much been my boss monster for pretty much all my decks at this point, and it is definitely a card I would love to incorporate into DDDs as well, and it's been working out for the past 3 or 4 weeks now. So I definitely really love the card. If you guys actually want to not play this card, you could actually play Yugioh instead. This is just another option, so you don't have to play Yugioh, or rather you don't have to play both of them, but you could play one of them. You actually have the space. Yugioh will offer you the 3 bottom scales and everything like that. However, I wanted to go for more power and less so for drawing and a bit of the whole luck aspect. So because of that, I decided to actually choose Avramax as my main Link boss monster here. So very nice card indeed. We're playing the Master King Archfiend, and we're playing Lanfarincus. If you guys are wondering, the Lanfarincus is meant to be a substitution for my Wee Witch's Apprentice, so definitely play Wee Witches, a lot better to buff up your DD monsters. But that being said, these two cards will pretty much easily go into your Avramax, so that's the whole point of it. But that being said, you do have pendulum monsters as well, so when you pendulum summon the ones from the extra deck, you could use them to link summon into your Avramax, because Avramax requires monsters special summon from the extra deck, and your pendulum summon monsters that come from the extra deck count as that. So that could work too, but I'm still playing these two just because they can still go for Avramax, and it's really nice. And yeah, really good there, but always consider that this card will be Wee Witch's Apprentice. Another card you could potentially do is you could play Zephyr Metaltron in instead of the Avramax or instead of the Wee Witches. Or instead of Master King, but I'm not actually adding this into the deck. This is just one of your options you could play as well, but since we're not playing the whole pendulum variant of it, I figure we don't really need to play Metaltron. For Xyz, we're playing the Kali Yuga, we're also playing the Titanic Galaxies. These are the 2 rank 8s we're actually going for. Definitely really amazing cards, definitely working out really well for the deck here. We're also playing the 1 copy of Wave High King Caesar. I figure this card I actually decided to add back in simply because we're playing the Puppet Masters, and we're also playing 2 Genghis as well. So going into your Caesar is actually quite easy. Very nice card, it's been working out quite well for me as well. For Synchro Monsters, we're playing the Crystal Wing. Right now, I do not have the Borreload Savage Dragon, so if you guys actually want to play Borreload Savage Dragon instead, then feel free to play that and take out the Crystal Wing. So it's either or, but for this particular case, since I don't have the Savage Dragon, I will be playing the Crystal Wing because it definitely works quite well. Of course, 1 Siegfried, very easy to go into, just to go for your negates, so very amazing. Gus King Alexander, part of your whole DD combos, so definitely a really amazing card there. And the Meteor Burst, obviously you're playing a bunch of monsters in your scale. You could special summon it out with the Meteor Burst, working really well for further link plays. And since you're playing Meteor Burst, it kind of actually also goes in to go into your Land Varaints as well, works quite well. And at the same time, you could also use him to go into your Avramax as well. So you definitely have quite a bit of options there. As for fusions, we are playing the DDD Super Doom King Purple Armageddon. You don't realize how easy this card is actually to go into. It requires 2 DDD monsters. I mean, that's not difficult. Just get them to the graveyard and in the very final turn, if you just feel like you need to go into something, then this will definitely do the job. I mean, all you need is really Dark Contract with the Swamp King. You could target a face-up attack position monster your opponent controls, destroy it, and then just inflict that damage equal to half its original. I mean, normally that's enough to deal game to your opponent, and it's 3500 beat stick, so why not? We're also playing the High King Genghis as well, obviously self-explanatory. We're playing the Diarch. I still very much so like this card for the fact that we just gain life points. Play this against my friends who actually play Trickstars, so with Diarch, it's definitely the perfect card. And to end things off, we're playing the 2 Genghis, the cards that you guys have been expecting, of course. Very important card for the deck. The key cards allowing you to also go into your Wave King Caesar. And yeah, basically these are the 3 cards here, the 3 Genghises. Most people are afraid to link them away because they haven't used their effects yet, but with the refusion, definitely works quite well for the deck here. So that's pretty much it for this whole deck, so I hope you guys enjoy this, and yeah, definitely leave some comments as to what you actually thought about this particular version of it. Did it actually go well for your testing? Because it's been working out for me for at least 5 weeks now, and then for 4 weeks, after adding in the Avramax, it's been working even better. So yeah, so far I have no qualms about this, no problems at all. I feel pretty happy about it. If you guys actually want to take out the Hope Harbinger or the Kali Yuga, you could also play the Dark Armageddon as a replacement as well. So that's an option if you want, but that being said, I'm just giving you a few options for you to adjust. But yeah, this is my final build for this particular version of it. Do stay tuned for 2 other versions, but in the meantime, I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you next time.